If I can just touch upon resourcing, for the Carnival period, it's okay. For the Carnival period, right up to the Carnival period, people hopefully are aware that we've had a number of English-trained firearms officers on the island. Thanks to government funding, those officers will remain on island and deployable right over the Carnival period and up until the 31st of August. In addition to that, today, again because of funding which was granted last year to allow the RAPF to increase recruitment, we had 17 officers who reported for formal duty today and initiation into the RAPF, and that will continue over this week. And prior to that, there were another 4 officers. So that is an additional 21 officers who will be deployable between now and the Carnival period, which gives us a significant uplift in what we should be able to provide when it comes to events and event security, along with the private security companies who are likely to be deployed. In addition to that, we are looking at how we can supplement CCTV. We're putting in a matrix to look at the events across Ireland, to look at some of those which we think may have perhaps slightly more risk, and I don't mean necessarily violent risk, but simply because of the numbers who attend. It is about public safety, and as we have done on a slightly smaller scale, we do deploy CCTV, certainly down at Sandy Ground and some of the other areas. So we are looking about how we can deploy mobile CCTV at some of those events, which will help us look at the crowd dynamics. It will hopefully deter those who will want to exhibit or may want to exhibit behaviour which may cause harm, and help us gather evidence if that in actual fact does happen. Where that is deployed, those going to the Carnival will see signage saying that CCTV is being used, and again I hope that that will be another visual deterrent against those who would perhaps want to bring ill will to the Carnival. So from the point of view of RAPF and the Carnival organisers, I'll just reiterate that planning is ongoing, meetings are regularly scheduled, resources have been increased, and we will continue to work in partnership with people across the island to make sure that Carnival in August is as safe as it most possibly can be. One further update, if you don't mind. On Friday, there were a number of arrests which were made on suspicion of illegal sand mining. There were 5 young men who were brought into custody and 2 vehicles seized with quantities of sand in both of those. They remained in custody until late Saturday. They have been released pending further inquiries and other examinations that we need to do of certain devices, and I will continue to keep you updated in respect of that. What I would say is that we will be working closely with our partners in the Department of Natural Resources in respect of this. Sand mining destroys our environment. It destroys our beautiful island. For those who use that illegal type of sand, please be aware that at some time the salinity in the sand is very likely to rot away any reinforced rebar that you have. So your foundations, maybe not in your time, but maybe in your children's time, are likely to become really unstable and may have really serious structural consequences for the build that you put up at that time. And if I remember, and I think back to when I was a small boy going to Sunday school, there was a little chorus said that the wise man built his house upon the rock. The foolish man built his house upon the sand. And I would encourage perhaps people to reflect on that. What may seem a cheap option at the time may have really serious consequences for you or your extended family, or if you're a commercial enterprise and using it in commercial buildings, what that might mean for you at a later stage if there's a structural failure. But I'm back to, this is destroying our island. It's an ecological disaster for us. So if you know who is doing this, please use the confidential website to help us. The Premier asked on Anguilla Day that we tackle this, and I will tackle this in conjunction with our partners in the Natural Resource Department. And we all have a role to play in this, and I ask for those in the public to help me with it. That's all I have to say at the moment. Acting Premier, thank you.
Thank you, Chief. While we wait for questions, it's good to know that if anyone is looking for a Sunday school teacher, we can reach out to you as well. And in addition to the illegal sand mining that my ministry is look forward to working with you with, is also the matter of on water safety.
Yes.
For fisher folk, that we have a meeting later this week.
10th of...
And I really thank you for the attentiveness of your force in both of these matters, which mean very much to us. Any questions?
Can you tell us what is the penalty for illegal sand mining?
I will have to come back to you on that. I went and looked at the legislation, but I didn't look at the penalty, so I'm sorry, I don't know.
Okay, all right. As it relates to the recruitment, you said today we have 17 new police officers?
Yes.
Could you tell us where they are from? Are they all UK based or they're from the region?
No, they're from the region.
Okay.
They're from different islands across the region.
And you said 4 additional will be coming on?
4 had already started before they arrived. One of those is from Ireland, and the rest are from different parts of the Caribbean.
Okay. And currently the UK-based officers who are here, they will return after Carnival?
They're certainly here up until the end of Carnival, and then as that end of August date approaches, we can reassess as to whether there will be an extension or not.
Commissioner, could you tell us or give us any update as it relates to any of the investigations to the previous murders and even the one that happened earlier in the year? And then we also understand that the shooting in South Hill, one of the victims died but probably a week and change ago. Could you speak to that?
Yes, I can. It was a tragedy. The young man who had been shot was grievously wounded, and I mean, he put up a valiant fight, but unfortunately passed away in Princess Alexandra Hospital, as you said, as a result of the bullet wounds that he received. If I can look at some of the other incidents, so if I look at the January murder, the Sandy Ground shooting, and the murder of Shaquan Richardson. We are currently working with the Federal Bureau of Investigation Forensic Department. They currently have a number of items relating to all 3 of those murders, which they are assisting us in forensic recovery on. That work remains ongoing. It did take some time to make sure that the chain of evidence was secure between here and America, but then also to get it into their processing system. And that goes across a number of physical exhibits, along with CCTV exhibits, along with DNA exhibits. So all that work currently remains ongoing, as does every other murder that took place in 2023.
You talk about our collaboration with the FBI, but do we collaborate with Scotland Yard?
Yes, I collaborate with an agency called the National Crime Agency.
Okay. All right, just was curious.
No, it's what I try and do is look at where the best resource is, and then also where I'm potentially likely to get the quickest return. And in these cases, I had an offer from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, which I was pleased to take.
James Harrigan from the Anglican newspaper.
James, nice to see you.
Thanks for your information, sir. There has been a recent spate of trespassing around 3 o'clock in the mornings in the circuses area and in other areas as well. It's a kind of nuisance now because the person comes and he breaks in and takes out things from people's homes. Is there any update on this situation?
It's actually two people. It's not one person. So it would appear to be two different, I'll call them young male individuals. I don't want to go in particularly too much to what we've been doing to tackle that. I don't want to compromise what we call operational methodology. We are working at different days, at different times, to track these individuals down. As you say, it's primarily cars which they seem to be targeting.
Yeah.
So I certainly would ask people in that area to make sure that your car is secure before you go into the house. But yes, I am concerned about the number of incidents which have been reported. We're probably talking 10 or 11 that I know of at this particular time. And all I'll say to you, James, is it's not the first time I've been out to 3:30 in the morning recently.
We recently had the retirement of the Deputy Commissioner, Elliot Fobbs. Could you tell us what about the vacancy now? Who's currently holding that position?
So the current acting deputy is Haslin Patterson. He was a substantive superintendent, and I felt it was appropriate to act Haslin up at this particular period of time. There will be a formal advertisement going out in due course, but just with the number of current moving parts that we have within the organisation between Carnival events, new people arriving, that probably won't be done until later this month. But I'm very confident in what Acting Deputy Commissioner of Police Patterson is doing at the moment.
You spoke about a number of resources coming into place. Could you speak to those on the water?
So I'm glad you raised that, Felicia. You heard the Acting Premier talking about some concerns around fishing. It has been my aspiration to get a formal marine unit re-established, and with the arrival of the 21 officers, some who replace people who have resigned or retired, there will be, by the time Carnival comes along, a full-time marine unit which has been re-established for the RAPF, and we will work in conjunction with customs, immigration, fisheries, and any other department that may have a need to go onto the water.
With the formal marine unit, does that mean that the Sandyground Police Station will come into being?
Sandyground is still there. I use it as a community policing hub at the moment. But yes, they'll be based out of Sandyground.
Okay. Could you also speak to maybe even our relationship with our regional partners, even especially leading up to our summer festival?
So again, that's another very good question. So I recently attended the annual general meeting of the Association of Commissioners of Caribbean Police. I always sometimes get the two C's the wrong way around, so the Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police. We looked at a number of things while we were in Belize for those days. One was around transnational crime, a second one was around gun crime and gun-related activity, a third was around gang-related interventions across the Caribbean. We also talked about the up-and-coming T20 World Cup, which is just about to start. Goes right from sort of Guyana right up into America, as far as I understand it. Doesn't necessarily affect Anguilla, but again, there was a substantial amount of information sharing and intelligence sharing, both between CARICOM and the commissioners. So again, I work very closely, not just with the British Overseas Territories Commissioners of Police, but again, you know, commissioners right across the Caribbean.
In terms of the illegal trafficking of firearms, how much does the issue of ghost guns come into play, especially as it relates to the 3D printing? I see some Caribbean islands passing or dealing with legislation to curb this. Is this a factor here in Anguilla?
It wouldn't have been a factor until recently, where we recovered a 3D printer on island. So ghost guns was not something that would be a problem on this island or an issue when it comes to firearms. But it was a concern that we recovered a 3D printer recently.
We discovered a 3D printer here?
Yes.
How recent?
Within the last, that's a bit specific, but yes, certainly within the last 12 weeks, yes.
Okay. All right. Any other information you can share as it relates
Yes,
to that?
there's someone charged with it already.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much for that, and thank you, Commissioner, for being here. I do want to mention that the CCTV program that was mentioned is just part of a beginning phase of onward work anticipated to be completed as it relates to CCTV and additional officers, again, that was mentioned in the Premier's and Minister of Finance's budget address for 2024. So we see as these things progress, sometimes it's need to move ahead of the plan, but I'm really grateful for the flexibility of all those involved, including the Ministry of Social Development and Education, which is responsible for carnivals. I think it's fitting that I just turn over to Minister Deanne Kentish-Rogers.
No problem. Thank you, Premier. Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to start simply with Carnival because it follows on very closely from the Commissioner's address in relation to security and Carnival. We have, of course, as the Commissioner has stated, started our conversations about the 50th anniversary of the Summer Festival and how we will increase our security protocols for that, given the anticipated arrival of persons on island. I have to note that there are going to be some changes for this carnival which would not have been in place prior to this carnival. There would have been a custom where persons and nationals of St. Martin would have been able to come over to Anguilla using their national identification cards and not requiring their passports. That provision is no longer going to be applicable during this carnival. You will have to have a passport in order to enter and access Anguilla, and that is supported by the French and Dutch immigration rules, which will require your passports for re-entry into the island of St. Martin, and therefore we must follow and we must advise persons who are interested in coming into Anguilla that they have to follow our immigration rules and also the immigration rules of St. Martin, St. Martin. That also means this also extends to the requirement for visas. There would have also been a position in previous years gone by that you would not have needed a visa in order to enter St. Martin, in order to enter Anguilla specifically for August Monday. However, we are not going to be able to extend that for this Carnival 50. And just to give you some clarification, Anguilla also cannot waive the visa requirement, as the visa requirements are not set by Anguilla, it's actually set by the United Kingdom government. So we would need specific exemptions from the United Kingdom government in order to waive the requirement for visas for persons coming over from St. Martin. We do, of course, understand that this will require persons to ensure that they have their documents in line in advance of the summer festival, which is why we are, at this point in time, letting you know that if you plan on coming to the Anguilla Summer Festival, August Monday, and the other festivities during the August period, you will need to have a valid passport. And if you do need to have a visa, you will also need to have a visa. And we're doing all of this understanding that we need to ensure that the security of all persons who are coming to on island is guaranteed, and that we can track the movement of persons in and out of Anguilla during that period. So we appreciate and we understand that there may be a slight inconvenience due to the change in custom, but we hope that we will have persons understanding in light of the fact that we are trying to ensure that security also is taken seriously on island. We've also been able to, with the collaboration of the Royal Anguilla Police Force and Customs Department, we will also be should have operational a scanner for items coming on island during that period. So there would have been, again, another custom in Anguilla where we would have been able to move through our ports without any hassle, quote unquote. But we are now going to require all items entering into Anguilla to be scanned. So these are also some of the recommendations that would have been placed in the gun crime and gang violence report and recommendations, and we have started to implement a number of these recommendations to ensure that we bolster the safety of the island during that carnival period. There's a lot to be said in relation to Carnival, but I'm sure that you'll hear a lot more information at the launch of Carnival, which is due to take place on June the 8th, 2024 at Davita's Beach Club. If you're able to attend, or if you're not able to attend, you can tune in to the Anguilla Summer Festival page, and you can listen to the rollout of all of the events taking place and the sponsors who will be participating with us this year. As it relates to the Vivian Vanderbilt Primary School, as you know, we would have had the redevelopment of the Vivian Vanderbilt Primary School, the IT lab, and some of the classroom blocks due to the fact that one of the classrooms in the IT block was located very close to the shoreline, and there were a number of damages to that building, access problems during high winds or the high tide, which meant that students would have to be trucked to the classroom in order to avoid the waves. We are now very far along in the completion of that IT and classroom block at the Vivian Vanderbilt Primary School, and I want to thank, please forgive me if I say it wrong, but Richard Beck, yes, the general contractor responsible for the Vivian Vanderbilt Primary School redevelopment, for assisting us in getting this to this position, and also Annie Villas for their donation in relation to the IT lab. We also have, and we will soon see the opening of Anguilla's first Youth and Innovation Center, or Innovation Hub, called Innovate Anguilla, which will be located across from the Princess Alexandra Hospital. The Innovation Hub is intended to provide support to young entrepreneurs and young business persons who wish to start their businesses, but because we understand that the factors of production can be quite expensive, we're providing a site for them where those factors of production will be highly reduced in order for them to be able to operate and have a safe environment within which to operate, with mentorship and guidance for a period of time. So we're looking to see this, the actual scheduled date I don't have, but it's supposed to, we're supposed to see that within the next 6 to 7 weeks. I do want to continue to wish the best for our students as they continue their exam period, which is currently taking place. I know that a number of our students, I know from personal experience because my little cousin keeps reminding me that they're still doing their exams, their SBAs, and having all the festivities now means that they can't join in. But I'm sure that they understand the value of education is very high, and these festivities will be around year on year. So I want to continue to wish the best for our students as they continue their examinations. As it relates to sports development, we are still awaiting confirmation from World Athletics. The new president of the Athletic Association, Mr. Karim Hodge, will be interfacing for Anguilla on behalf of Anguilla as we reach this stage of the development for the new track and field facility. And as soon as we have further information from World Athletics and Qatar, we will be sure to update the public. As it relates to school buses, I know that this is an issue that has been raised on a number of occasions, specifically in relation to the breakdown of certain school buses. Just to inform you, we would have included school buses in the 2023 General Appropriation Bill. However, the tender and procurement for those buses would have failed. We have increased in our supplementary budget a provisional sum for our supplementary buses, and we'll hope to go out to tender on those buses as soon as possible. Noting, however, which is something that I need the general public to understand, that in relation to the construction of buses, these buses take 18 to 24 months to make. Not to get to Anguilla, to make. So it is not a simple issue of just buy the buses. It's a matter of they are very long lead items, which means that they may not arrive in time when we need them. And therefore, in the interim, we will have to rent buses in order to take our children to school. So we are hoping for your understanding as we navigate through that challenge, but understand also that we will be doing whatever is necessary to get our students to school. On the music and cultural side, yes, we're looking forward to the Anguilla Summer Festival 2024, but I want to indicate to the public that Anguilla has also been successful in its bid to host the World Music Cities event in November 2025, and you can tune into the Government of Anguilla and the Ministry of Social Development page to see our formal announcement as the host of the 2025 Music Cities event. And that is a substantive update from myself. Any questions?
Just to go back to your initial statement as it relates to the scanners, so scanners will be placed both at the airport and Blown Point?
Yeah, the airport has scanners. It's just that Blown Point never had scanners.
Okay.
Well,
Right.
I can't say never had scanners, but in terms of it never had scanners? Oh, they never had scanners, but we're now looking to enforce them.
Okay.
Yes. So as the minister said, the scanners cost over $1 million, but we're now looking to implement one.
We know persons have a unique way of getting things in. We've heard the stories at the prison, so I mean, we have our keys and we already hear the stories, but in terms of people even bringing in guns via fruits and all of that, how will we be able to detect those things?
Fruits. That's the first time I heard guns with fruits.
Yeah, you cut open the pumpkin, put the gun in, stick it
Okay.
back together. Well, yes, so that's what I mean. So
Yeah. The hope is
yes, I
that
know, so that's
yeah.
why I'm asking.
The hope is that the scanners will be used to be able to detect those items, but also in relation to our porous borders, as the minister would have said. And as the Commissioner of Police said, we are looking at our CCTV operations and looking at areas where we would have probably less coverage in relation to CCTV.
You talk about the Innovate Anguilla first, the first off. I know last year for the youth development, the orange economy was the topic of discussion, the theme. I see that CDB now has allocated funds to help the orange economy, the creatives. Do you know if we are getting a portion of those funds, or have we applied or will be applying for those
We
funds?
will be applying. There's no guarantee because of Anguilla's peculiar political status as an overseas territory. Most of the time, these grants are accessible for independent countries, mostly, and therefore we are disqualified. But I have been making some overtures, not only to CDB, but also to our partners at UNESCO, who deal with a lot of the cultural and youth business-led initiatives for additional grants to be extended. But that's part of that is having a office based in Anguilla, which we're currently working on.
Oh, so not because we are a borrowing member country makes us
Unfortunately not. Yeah.
associate borrowing member country. Okay, all right. You talk about the exams. We know that CXC has withdrew at least 4 to 5 subjects
Yes.
from their syllabus.
Yes, that's the decision by CXC has been a very controversial decision, to say the least. The ministers of education across the region are due to have a meeting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. After that meeting, I'll be able to update you, but generally speaking, the ministers across the region do not support CXC's decision in this regard. So,
Oh, I guess we hear more tomorrow.
We take note that the rate of work on ransom board is speeding up. Do you have any projected date for opening, or
our projected date is the 18th of July, 2024.
it's still at that date?
You have to push for it and then see if you make it. That's all I can say. I can't speak to the intervening events. I know, of course, if there's rain or if we have any weather patterns, they can delay progress on site, which we are hoping. I cannot say that we don't want rain. We do want rain, but of course, sparingly, Jesus.
Not delaying rain.
Yes, yes. So, but we are working very hard, and the contractors and all of the men are working very hard to push towards that time frame. Of course, you know that it's finishing a building that actually takes the longest period of time. So, we note the issues in relation to the time, but we keep being cautiously optimistic.
Mr. Hughes, do you have any comment?
You know, it really does. 7 days a week, 12-hour days. The only thing that prevents us is some items that may be
Long lead items.
Long lead items. But even with that, once we have electricity and running water, we having a summer festival at a secure location that was once called Lansom Estate.
Thanks for the information.
Thank you for your questions, and I'll now hand over to Minister Hodge.
Thank you, Premier. Just to step back on a bit at what the minister would have said earlier about the relaxed entry. So there will no longer be a relaxed entry into Anguilla this year because of security reasons, and we are encouraging members of the public from neighboring islands to still come over, but make sure you have all the documentation in place. And in particular with the visas, the Immigration Department has a visa unit that is swamped. There's a huge backlog of applications at the Immigration Department, and it grows every day. I'm saying that to tell persons, please put in the applications early so that you can be sure of getting your applications processed in time. It's a very small unit. We are trying to increase the staff there, but unfortunately, you know it goes with the numbers. So a word of advice to the public who need visas to enter Angola, please put in the applications very early. So my substantive bit of information would be basically that I would have represented Anguilla at the Caribbean Regional Seminar on the implementation of the 4th International Decade for the Eradication of Colonialism, pursuing goals and addressing needs of the non-self-governing territories in Caracas, Venezuela, from May 14th to 16th. This was an extremely enlightening seminar. This would have been the second time, I should point out, that I've attended such a seminar. I would have got an opportunity to meet quite a number of persons. In particular, the BVI was represented there as well with my good friend, Mr. Benito Wheatley. He's a special envoy of the Premier of the British Virgin Islands. And I got opportunity as well to meet with the Honorable Teslin Bachman. She's a member of the Falkland Islands Legislative Assembly. I should point out as well that I had some discussions with her about their fishing program there, because as you know, they make quite a bit of revenue from selling fishing licenses. And so, Minister, I'll be happy to pass on her contact information to you, and perhaps you could reach out, because her experiences in the Falkland Islands, I believe we could well learn from. And as well as I ran into Mr. Carlisle Corbin. He's an international advisor on global governance. He's done quite a bit of work in Anguilla. So those would have been interesting persons I would have met with. I also had the honor of meeting with the chairman of the C24 conference, Her Excellency Minister Rambali, who comes from the island of St. Lucia. So the conference over 3 days, the agenda included role of the special committee, perspectives of the administering powers, the non-self-governing territories and other stakeholders, political developments in the Caribbean and Pacific regions, role of United Nations in supporting the non-self-governing territories in accordance with relevant United Nations resolutions and recommendations. I would have presented a paper from Anguilla, and it's a long paper, so I'd encourage those who would like to read it. You can go to my Facebook page, and it is right there. I did make a point in the paper, and I understand today there was a comment made on Just the Facts that suggested that Anguilla has not done much in the way of constitutional reform. And I want to remind the listening public that when we came in, when the start of the COVID scared that down a bit, we'd have undertaken a number of town hall meetings in the various districts. In the months of September and October 2021, we held town hall meetings in all the various, the 7 electoral districts. And those meetings, we got quite a lot of feedback at those meetings, which basically would have put us in a good stead when we progress forward with the constitutional reform process. So it is not a dead topic. As I've said before, it was a simple situation that we had to prioritize, and at the time, issues like the minimum wage and reform of the labor legislation took center stage, and we put this on the back burner. But it's very much something that this administration is committed to moving forward with, and we will do so in due time. So those were the main highlights from my ministry. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Hodge. And we move right over to the Minister of Infrastructure and Tourism, Minister Hayden Hughes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. It's good to be here. It's been a while. I have quite a bit to report, especially from tourism, and I'll just get to it. Just to congratulate Director of Tourism, Ms. Stacey Libert, on being appointed to the Caribbean Tourism Organization's Aviation Committee. So we're very happy about that. As you know, we're doing a lot with aviation, and even in New York for the CTO this upcoming month, I will also be giving the address when it comes to aviation matters in the Caribbean. I'm very honored, privileged to have been given that invitation. The Anguilla Tourist Board is working on launching the Access Anguilla campaign. We've had lots and lots of requests from individuals, those in the diaspora and those who are coming to Anguilla for the first time for the Anguilla Summer Festival. And we've had serious challenges with rooms. And so last week, Friday, we met at the ministry's conference room together with the Anguilla Hotel and Tourism Association and the Anguilla Tourism Board to discuss how we're going to get everyone who have any availability to be able to have a one-stop shop to, on the Anguilla Tourist Board website where we can let people know what availability there is, if there is. So that is a challenge. We're also working with the hotels to present some packages if there's still availability for the Anguilla Summer Festival. But it's a family reunion, and I know many of us will be opening our homes to individuals who want to come to Anguilla as well. So we are working on that. Also, Condor Airlines have restarted flights from Frankfurt to Antigua, and JetBlue is introducing new routes from Rhode Island and Westchester to San Juan starting this fall. And we'll be working on a comprehensive airline map, giving people different routes and options to get into Anguilla. American Airlines service continues very strong and will continue through the summer of 2024. American has also just announced that they will be adding a third flight on Saturdays starting December 21st of 2024. So that's really pleasing to note. When we initially started with American Airlines, we were doing 3 flights a week, and now we'll be up to 3 flights on a Saturday. So that shows the growth, and if you can look at the tourism stats, you'll see every month we have been broken records in terms of tourism arrivals. So I want to thank all persons in Anguilla for that, because it is not only the government of Anguilla who is responsible for that, but it's also our service providers, our restaurateurs, our porters, our boat operators, our reservations persons, those who work in the hospitality sector, our charter boat and ferry boat operators, and also the Anguilla Tourist Board and our tourism partners, you know, all of us working together. These are the results that can happen. As you know, this administration, from the very inception of coming to office, we have ensured that a general manager from a major hotel sits on the Anguilla Tourist Board to ensure that we have a good relationship moving forward. The general manager of note who sits on the Anguilla Tourist Board right now is the general manager for Aurora Resort, who is Kevin Carty. Prior to him was Diego, who has moved on from Four Seasons Anguilla and have moved back to Florida. And prior to him was Tiago Sarmiento of the Capchaluca Hotel. So we are happy to see that we continue to have those relationships and those partnerships working for the same goal. The Anguilla Tourist Board have a summer campaign, and this is just building on the successes that we've had over the winter period. The summer campaign is to focus and highlight our experiences as well as showcase accommodation options available on island beyond the luxury resorts. Our mid-market properties, our Airbnbs, and our villa rentals, they have been growing exponentially as well. This year, Anguilla will host CMITE, as we would call it, CMITE, the Caribbean and Mexico Meetings and Incentive Travel Exchange from August the 17th to the 21st of August. It'll be the first of its kind being hosted by Anguilla. This forum connects North American meeting and incentive buyers with suppliers based in the Caribbean and Mexico and South America. The host hotel is the Aurora Resort and Golf Club. We want to thank them for hosting us there. We also have a CTO Caribbean Week that will be from June the 5th to the 8th. And we have a trade and media dinner presentation in partnership with French St. Martin. We also had Virtuoso, which was in Dubai. And we also have Virtuoso Travel Week, which will be from August the 10th to the 16th. And we have the CTO State of the Travel Industry in September 1st to the 6th. The Canadian Sales Meetings, September 29th to the 6th. In the ILTM North American in the Bahamas, September the 23rd to the 26th. And as you know, the Monaco Boat Show and Yacht Show from September the 25th to the 28th in partnership with St. Martin, St. Bart's, both French and Dutch St. Martin, sorry. We also have a number of familiarization trips that will be hosted on island. all the way to the end of this year. And we've had some stakeholder updates. Carnival has reported that their occupancy is well over 90% for the entire summer through about mid-August, and they'll be closing from September the 2nd to October the 4th. Q Hotel has also had a strong season, specifically significantly increased occupancies and revenue. That is good, and the recently held Caribbean Travel Marketplace that I attended, Anguilla is ranked #1 in terms of average daily rate. So not only our occupancies are rising exponentially, but also we have the highest average daily rate in the entire Caribbean. So that bodes well for Anguilla. Four Seasons also much higher than projected. As a matter of fact, they are 10% over 2023, so that is good for Four Seasons as well. And Aurora has also increased and have also outpaced their occupancies from last year. So in terms of the major hotels, they too have increased their occupancies, and reports from the Airbnb market, they too have increased their occupancies, some of them reporting that they have not had any empty rooms or empty room nights from November of last year to date. Coming from the Anguilla Air and Seaports Authority, I just want to congratulate a number of persons who have been promoted. Ms. Kenisha Davis, she has been promoted to the Port Manager at Blowing Point. Ms. Condora Fleming, Piers and Harbor Master, acting. Ms. Shanna Hughes, Port Officer. At the Clayton J. Lloyd International Airport, Ms. Sheila Hodge has been promoted to Quality Manager. Ms. Shakima Romney, Aeronautical Information Systems Supervisor. Mr. Victor Nikio Jr., Deputy Airport Security Manager, and Ms. Laurencia Springett, Lateral Movement to Quality Coordinator. Also at Road Bay, Ms. Alicia Richardson has been promoted to Acting Piers and Harbor Master, and at the Corporate Office, Ms. Rosette Reed has been promoted to Human Resource Officer. So also, from today, Mr. Kendall Richardson, the CEO of the Anguilla Air and Seaports Authority, will be in Curacao to attend attend Connect New World Conference. This is similar to Roots. So we've been having a lot of discussions with airlines and aviation companies in terms of serving Anguilla once the airport is expanded, and I am pleased to say that every airline company that we have spoken to, have those conversations with, have given us assurances and great feedback. So we look to the day when we have significant airlift coming out of New York, coming out of Atlanta, coming out of Fort Lauderdale in the not too distant future. As it relates to the Clayton J. Lloyd International Airport, the cargo building is moving along quickly. Leeward Construction is now doing the finishing touches. The exterior primer is completed. The front sidewalk and curbs have been poured. The interior tiling is almost fully installed. And the internal systems, including the HVAC, electrical, and plumbing, is ongoing. And we hope to have that completed and finished for August of this year. The airport terminal building, even though we had a significant amount of rain, that is moving along well. We are a little bit ahead of schedule, so it's always good to be ahead of schedule, especially given the fact that we've had so much rain and we're entering into the hurricane season. So ACON, which is a contractor of record, is fully mobilized. Everything is already in place. The area is secured. We've had safety and security training. Both myself and Minister Deanne Kentish Rogers have been briefed in terms of security and security and safety in terms of visiting the site and what processes it is to visit that particular site. We've poured the bottom of one of the cisterns. Both cisterns are already fully dug out. The cistern, sorry, not poured. There's a preliminary pour in the cistern, and now the real pouring is going to be done on Wednesday of this week of the first cisterns, and those are going to be part of the foundations for the building. So we're moving along well. As you can see, what have happened over the last few weeks in terms of the airport terminal and the capacity, the lack of capacity, clearly demonstrates why we need to build this airport terminal as quickly and safely as possible. So, Premier, that's briefing.
That was a very thorough briefing. Before I move on, any questions for the minister?
Mr. Hughes, you spoke to the rise in occupancy levels. I mean, generally, a comment in terms of what we are doing really to push our numbers. I know we've been pushing for 365 days. I'm not sure if they're really possible, given that we actually, in the hurricane season. What's your feedback in terms of even from the hotels? Will they be open to remaining open during this hurricane season as well?
Well, not this year for sure. The hotels have always said this, and they've been saying this for a number of years, that once Anguilla's airport is developed to its full potential, they will definitely open year-round. And even in recent discussions with the hotels here on island, except for Aurora, as you know, Aurora stays open year-round, they have indicated that they will definitely be opening year-round once the airport is completed. And this isn't only the terminal, huh? This is also the runway extension, because the terminal is only one aspect of it. The runway extension, we hope to commence construction on that in January of 2025.
Mr. Hughes, what can you tell us about the latest happenings at Anglic? We understand that the board would have expired around April. What can you tell us about the situation at Anglic?
Well, there's no situation at Anglic. As you know, and as we know, historically, the board has a particular period of time in which to serve, and there's a 3 months post the time in which they serve, in which they can have the annual general meeting or special meeting. We, as a government of Angola, we have requested a special sitting of Anglic, a special AGM of Anglic, an AGM, annual general meeting of Anglic, to consider all of these things and anything that is related to Anglic in terms of the financials, etc. And we should go to Executive Council on that this week, and we will have an annual general meeting this month, June of this year. Just to say, I don't understand why we have these type of conversations, because legislation is well over 30 years old. And we have seen several boards over the years who have gone a month, 2 months, and sometimes even beyond the 3 months that is required. Even governments, the election of 2020, the election of 2020 was held on February 15th of 2010, sorry. The election of 2015 was held on April 22nd. And the election of 2020 was held on June 26th and 29th. So, and that is because even though the Constitution stipulates where it is, it also gives the ability to go 90 days beyond that particular period. So I don't know if that was the reason why the legislation was framed that way when the Anguilla Electricity Act was formulated, but that is what it is. So they still have a few weeks left in this tenure, but we'll have an annual general meeting done well before that.
Carlton Pickering, KCN Television. With all that you have said about what is happening with the airport and also in the tourism industry, how well prepared are we for this hurricane season here in Anguilla?
Well, we've been having major hurricanes since September of 1960 with Hurricane Donna, which killed 7 people. And since then, we have changed the way we have constructed. And between 1960 and the last major hurricane, which was in September of 2017, only 1 person died in a hurricane. So it says even as it relates to building our resilience, every time we have a hurricane, we build back better, we build back stronger, we continue to build stronger. And I think that we are well prepared for hurricanes. Now, that said, this hurricane season is projected to be the strongest ever. That is a projection. We can already feel the heat. I look across from me and I can see one of our journalists fanning profusely because it's really hot. And we have seen the numbers, and we know that almost every month we have been, since 2022, we have been breaking record after record after record in terms of heat index. We see so many people dying in India. We see heat waves in the United Kingdom. And we expect to have a very active hurricane season. That said, there's no way to determine whether another hurricane is going to hit us. But in the meantime, we make preparations. In the building of the Blowing Point Ferry Terminal, we ensure that when we did the windows and doors, we built specifically for hurricanes, given the fact that it'll be there. The airport is going to be built similarly in terms of once it is built, those retractable shutters will be there so we can mobilize at any time. Most of the government buildings, if not all of the government buildings, have the ability to quickly bar up Now individuals too have the responsibility to bar up their homes. As you know, hurricane shutters are duty free. So it is something that government of Angola has incentivized because we know the fact that we live in a hurricane zone. So
No, but I know that we build back strong, but with so much constructions going on across the island, where materials will be placed various places, are we confident that these materials will not be objects
well, we
during
can't
that time? If we should have a strong hurricane coming?
in hurricane armor, containers that were filled to capacity became flying objects. So there's no guarantee, but you made a very interesting point in terms of construction. We have an extremely robust construction sector, so much so that is far outpaced what we had in 2004, 5, and 6, 7. The Minister of Labor can tell you this. We have contractors reaching out to us as ministers to find labor in our respective constituencies, so much so that I made a call for on my social media platforms for construction workers, and next thing I saw a foul going around saying that I had shares in these construction companies. But that said, there's also a difficulty in terms of materials and securing of materials and procurement of materials. Right now on island, there's only one place that I know that have pipe, 3/4 pipe, right? The bag cement, individual bag cement is difficult. Even the bulk cement, as you can see, we've been running through a lot of bulk cement, and we can see that in the numbers of importation. So we see a lot of construction going on. I like to say that the Angola Progressive Movement is a government that moved from marches and second-hand cars coming out of Japan to brand new vehicles coming out of St. Martin and the like, you know, where every day I looked out the window at the Ministry of Infrastructure and I see brand new vehicles being licensed. And you know, it goes back to something that I saw on social media, because the Angola United Front, they have some operatives, right? That whenever you do something, they believe that it's something untoward. For example, with the vehicles that was granted by Motorola, I saw a post by one of their candidates saying, oh, this is only to get a license, so that they can have license to do car rentals and sell vehicles. But just for your information, the owner and proprietor of Motorola is a belanger of Angola and has owned a home in Angola for well over 30 years, right? And so in terms of rental of vehicles, he does own a rental agency, and he bought that rental agency from a willing buyer, Mr. Kent Webster, who was selling huts. So the reality is that these are nothing that is untoward or shady to begin with. And we ask for any scrutiny as it relates to this, right? Nobody cried foul when the Angola United Front in 2000 and 2003 really started the process of inundating the local retail sector by having groceries and hardwares coming from Southeast Asia, right? So we have to look at the records. And this is the administration that went to Parliament in 2021 to pass a business and licensing regime that gives us some authority to control that aspect in terms of how we move forward with business licenses. In the past, before this administration come to office, someone applied for a business license, and only the permanent secretary of finance could approve that, and would approve it, and if it wasn't approved within 15 days, it was considered as approved. You couldn't reject it, you couldn't say no. But under the new regime, the Angola Chamber of Commerce and a committee looks at business licenses, and the only way you can have a business license outside of that is if it goes to Executive Council now. So in the case of, I want to make an example, in the case of Kelly Construction, who won the contract to build the cargo facility, the enabling works, in order for them to start their construction, once they won that through the procurement process, they had to have a business license. And the only way they could get that business license if they were to write to the Executive Council so it can be approved in the Executive Council. That wasn't the process in the past. The permanent secretary only. So in terms of transparency, in terms of inclusion, this is what this administration has continued to do over the time that we've been in office.
Well, I hope that we will encourage those who are doing construction in placing material in the event that we will have an hurricane coming or some thing coming that these material are, properly placed?
You know, the thing about building material, if you look at building material in 2019, and look at building material in 2020, and 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024, they have, in some cases, double in cost. So it makes good financial sense to secure your building materials, given the fact that a lot of the building material that we have today takes a lot longer to get to Anguilla for a number of different reasons that it's external to Anguilla. So it makes good sense to secure those.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Just quickly, I would have seen received a comment from the Facebook feed in relation to fixing the buses, the school buses, but just to indicate that the school buses, to a large extent, are over 20 years old. There's no more fixing to be done for those school buses. They have to be replaced. So the question is, and it's to make it clear, if you have school buses that cannot be fixed, and you have a lead period between 18 and 24 months until you get the new school buses, then what do you do in the interim? The response is to rent. There's no alternative to that solution. If there was, we would use it, but unfortunately there is not. And therefore, until we are able to get those new school buses on hand, we will have to deal with renting school buses in the interim. I don't know if that is clear. I know another concern was raised in relation to the primary schools and the tiles in the primary schools, because the tiles in those brand new school buildings have popped up on a number of occasions, and parents have been complaining, teachers have been complaining, and we've had to replace those tiles because they've caused quite a disruption to classroom time. So we are dealing with every single emergent and future issue at the same time as best as we possibly can. At the moment, we've replaced tiles in the Valley Primary School, Aurelia Kelly Primary School, and we're now we're finishing up with the tiles that popped up in the new building in the Road Primary School. I'm calling it by the Adrian T. Hazel, the Adrian T. Hazel Primary School. So yes. And there was another question in relation to whether or not we can find another board to support examinations in Anguilla rather than CXC. I'm sure that there are options out there, alternatives out there, and if it is that we must look, that is a possibility.
Thank you, Minister. As it relates to my substantive ministry, sustainability, innovation, and environment, there's one update in relation to the people's market that I believe for the next press conference that I'll have more, because we have quite a few things in the pipeline. But I am aware of photos being circulated about persons utilizing the area in a proper way. And we have been, prior to this and continue, looking at security measures to secure the investments made in the people's market, because what has been done is just some of the investments that we intend to make as we try to utilize, encourage more use of the people's market. So the security measures, we are hoping, we are striving for them to remain, secure the building, but to ensure that it remains accessible to all persons who would like to utilize it. And those solutions will come up very shortly. There was also some questions in relation to hurricane season, so it's good that you brought that up earlier. The Department of Disaster Management, which is one of the agencies responsible for managing disasters in Anguilla, one of which will include hurricanes, falls under the portfolio of the governor, as it is a security matter, but they continue to work very closely, particularly with my ministry and the Department of Natural Resources. We do recognize a few things for a very strong hurricane season. Okay. We do recognize there are a few ingredients for an extremely strong hurricane season, including the fact that for the year we've had above average temperatures. May's temperatures have been 5 to 7 degrees above average, which brings it to about what August's sea temperatures ordinarily would be, which means that we have a lot of heat energy being stored in our oceans. And as we know, heat energy is the perfect ingredient for stronger storms, frequent storms, and quicker intensifying storms. So storms that we would see to be a tropical storm today and by tomorrow could be a category 3. And these are concerns because it lends itself to low opportunities for preparation and little to no opportunities to know exactly what is happening in terms of travel and other matters of guidance, boarding up your homes and such. So I encourage you to follow the Department of Disaster Management on Facebook, as they are the country's official advisory for disasters facing the country. We also know that there are other means and other pages where there's information that's being circulated on a regular basis about weather phenomenons in and around Anguilla. There's also a CAPIT app. I think it's cap.it. That is also a warning system that is managed by the Department of Disaster Management, and I encourage you to download that app and keep in touch with what is happening in Anguilla. And perhaps it is possibly time for us to invite a representative from the DDM to join us next week to give further information on how we should be planning for this hurricane season, which promises to be a very strong one. And in the meantime, we pray for some Sahara dust to negate all the possible impacts of a very strong season. In the Ministry of the Premier, particularly the Ministry of Finance, the premiers with members of cabinet would have met with Republic Bank on Friday and I believe a week before that. And the premier will be issuing a statement, I believe, on or before, probably by Wednesday, about the outcomes of that meeting. I think we all remain hopeful, and we look forward to hearing his official response to that experience in that meeting. But it was a very unfortunate occurrence, and we're looking forward to seeing its conclusion, hopefully in a very amicable way. Between the last press conference and now, we would have had Executive Council would have passed our supplementary budget, and now we're waiting for further approvals. But the supplementary budget includes a lot of improvements for all of the ministries. It touches on matters such as the school buses, Carnival, road work, food security. So very similar into the veins that we would have identified in our national budget, and we're looking forward to bringing that to the House of Assembly pretty soon. You seem to have one more intervention.
I forgot to mention that the procurement have gone out for 3 roads. It is the John Road that leads into the new Albina Lake Arch Comprehensive School. This is something that was very important for the Minister of Education, given the issues we have with flow of traffic. Also, the road that leads around to the Blowing Point Sporting Facility that joins Blowing Point Road proper into the Jeremiah Gums Highway, and then the road that leads from South Hill into the Jeremiah Gums Highway that drives past the Louis Price Gym. Thank you.
Just on another point, of course, we talked about the supplementary budget. The Premier spoke about the supplementary budget. And one of the key things that's being covered in this supplementary budget relates to security for the schools. So we will be introducing security officers at our primary schools. So currently we have security officers primarily at our high schools, but we will now be extending security officers to our primary schools. We will also be equipping all of our schools, for the most part, with cameras, camera and CCTV in equipment. And part of that would have also been in response to a lot of the issues that we've been having to ensure that we can bolster our security responses in relation to our schools, because we have seen some instances not only in relation to violence, but also in relation to, we want to be very careful in terms of seeing who is spending a lot of time around our schools, specifically our primary schools and our young children, because there have been concerns raised not in the community about the potential for grooming of young students, and these security cameras will be part of the response to these issues. Of course, this is touching and concerning our schools as it relates to matters of grooming that take place close to persons' homes. I would like to appeal to the general public, to parents, guardians alike, to be very careful with the persons you have around your children and these students, because more and more when the information is coming out about incidences of this, of whether it's child molestation or gang involvement, we see matters of grooming featuring very prominently. So while we on our end will do our best to ensure that the schools are safe, I think it's a matter for our communities to make sure that our homes and our communities are safe for our students. So we need your partnership on this. We cannot do this alone. Thank you.
How much is the supplementary budget?
I think it's $44 million. Yes.
I think it's 51.
$51 million.
Yes. All right, thank you. And this brings us to the conclusion of today's press conference. I thank you for being here. Thank you for the Premier for entrusting this team to hold it down while he's away. And we look forward to his safe return. And as I would have mentioned, any other onward updates in relation to Republic Bank will be delivered by the Premier. And we will meet again in 2 weeks' time. As often said, the first and third Monday of every month, unless the Monday is a holiday. So we would have, met a month ago. Lots of things have happened between then and now, but thank you for your patience and
Just
the questions.
before you close, do you have any update on our public health?
Sorry, no, I don't have any update on public health today. All right, thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again.